We have now Professor Buhalis with us. And we welcome Professor Buhalis. We all know his achievements and how much he has helped tourism and hospitality industry. He's a strategic management and marketing expert who focuses on smart tourism. He's the director of the e-tourism lab at Bournemouth University in England. And his panel will discuss learning from Greece, issues learning from Greece, tourism and hospitality resilience in the COVID-19 era. Thank you very much, Professor, that you are with us.
Hello, Nikki. Hello, everybody. It's great to see that this is happening. I can see how stressed you are. Just relax, chill out. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. And it's a great pleasure to contribute to your conference and to have the opportunity to discuss with some great friends some of the great things that happened. I'd like to start with 2 or 3 slides, if you allow me, so we can explain some of the developments that happened in the last few years. Let me see if I can. Can you see the slide?
Yes, yes.
Are they coming up? Okay. So effectively. COVID has created a huge problem for us. 1 million people have died already, and there are so many people who are affected by that. Effectively, it stopped the tourism industry and brought us to ground zero. It has been such a difficult situation for the tourism industry around the world, and everybody around the world has been suffering from it. For the first time ever, the Disneyland closed, for example, and there's a huge issue that is that brings a huge economic issue that's coming forward. From the beginning of this pandemic, I started talking about the need for humanity, solidarity, and leadership. And we discussed about how we can engage people in understanding and helping each other to develop our resilience and to engage in solidarity and leadership. I think what's becoming evident every day is that we have actually departed from where we are, and we are going to a new future, where the new future will need to explore and decide how the new future will look like. And I think we need to look into how we can reignite the tourism industry. And I think this summer we had some reignition of the industry. We had some activity that happened in the last few months. And I think gradually we start refocusing and we start redesigning the tourism of the future. I think gradually we need to re-engineer everything we do to understand the requirements of the new environment that we operate and make sure that the tourism industry is prepared for the new reality. And a lot of people are asking for answers on those things, but it's actually quite difficult to have definite answers. I think over the years, we've identified a range of marketing processes, and now we are kind of getting to that stage where this process will be coming forward and helping us in designing the tourism of the future. I think the situation is that we have never been in a situation like that. We're in uncharted waters. And the situation is that we need to engage in conversation with all the stakeholders globally to take forward the tourism industry. And I'm very glad to engage in conversation with some of the leadership of the tourism industry in Greece, because what we can see in Greece has done much better than a lot of other countries, definitely much better than the UK. And I think if you compare Greece with Sweden, that Sweden had a very different model. Sweden has got a similar kind of population of about 10 million people. And when you see what has happened is that Sweden so far had 90,000 cases, while Greece had about 17,000. and Sweden had 6,000 victims. 6,000 people have died in Sweden, while in Greece the number is 369. We feel very sad for each particular individual who has died through this pandemic. But what Greece has demonstrated is that if you manage the situation in a better way, you're in a position to actually take care of your population, help your tourism industry, and help everybody who is involved in that. Greece had a good summer in comparison to the conditions that we had. It opened the accommodation on the 1st of July. And for those people who opened, about half of the hospitality industry opened, and it operated for about 2 months. Between 15th of July and 15th of September had fairly good occupancy and still progressing with the rest of the summer. I think I don't necessarily like to say anything more, but I say that we have had some very good examples in Greece, and we should really look at that. And I think our panel will be fantastic to discuss those things and engage into how we can learn from Greece and how we can take some of these benefits to other places and understand how we can use best practice.
Κάτι έπαθε η σύνδεση του, περίμενε.
Ναι, εγώ θα πω thank you, professor, για να προχωρήσω.
Ναι, όταν το πεις, κάτσε.
Τι παρουσιάστηκε, λάθος, κάτι. Τι κάνω εγώ.
Σε βγάζω.
Ναι. Thank you very much, professor. Thank you very much, professor. Do you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yes, thank you very much for your contribution. Would you like to ask the panel that you are coordinating to join us? Can I ask them to join?
Yes, please.
Yes, I can see here Mr. Kokotos. Ναι, εδώ. Εδώ. Okay, yes. This is our panel. We are. I'm very honored that we have our panel here. We can see all the invited speakers that Professor Buhalis will introduce them to you. Professor Buhalis, please introduce this extremely wonderful panel that we have today with us. We see Ms. Karantzavelou on the left screen. We can see Ms. Margari, Mr. Vassilikos on the right hand side, and on the left Mr. Kokotos. Professor Buhalis, are you here with us? I can introduce you to Ms. Karantzavelou. She is founder of Travel Media Applications and chief editor of Travel Daily News, founder of the Bike Friendly label. Then Mr. Alexandros Vassilikos on the right-hand side, Airotel Group Hotels owner, president Hellenic Chamber of Hotels, and executive committee member of HOTREC. And then Mrs. Margari on the right-hand side up, she is of Diana Hotels in Zakynthos, that we are going to have our next conference. She is the managing director at Diana Group Hotels. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kokotos on the left-hand side, is managing director at Elounda Real Estate Development, member of the board at Elounda SA Hotels and Resorts, member of the board at Marketing Greece, and member of the board at Association of Greek Tourism Enterprises, SETE. Professor Buhalis, I just introduced your wonderful panel. Please take the lead. We cannot hear you.
Thank you very much for introducing me to very good friends. With some of these friends, we've been together for more than 30 years, and fantastic to see you all. And great opportunity actually to discuss what is happening this summer and how can we learn from the best experience. So you had a sequence, Vicky, Nikki, where Vicky was supposed to do, everybody was supposed to do a small statement, and then we can have a discussion, right?
Yes. But you can lead the way that you want it. Yes, Vicky was first, then Alexandros Vassilikos, then Mr. Fώτης Κοκοτός, and then Mrs. Margari. But you can do it the way you want.
I've been in the UK for about 30 years, so I go by the plan. So let's go on the plan, and let's start with Vicky, who was on the and if you can share your thoughts with that, Vicky, then we're going to go to Alexandros and Katerina.
Okay, hello everybody. You mean to share my thoughts about tourism, about what is going on, about the future? What do you want to tell you?
A little bit of all that.
All right. Well, my opinion right now is that we are in time that there are changes, lots of changes will happen. So first of all, I saw with Travel Day news that people when were in quarantine and people when didn't work, they spend a lot of time on social media, reading our news, and we saw an increase in people interested in the news and what is going on. And because they didn't have work. So this is good for us, but I'm not sure if it's good for the people because they spend their time on the social media more than working. That's the first change that we face. And after that, when tourism opened, as we say, and we had some tourism in Greece, we saw that most of our hotels work at 20-25%. Of course, there were some places that, because of some difference that they had more tourism than this percentage. But this percentage was, I think, was all over Greece, about 20-25%. So we saw some tourism. And now, after the end of the summer, we are facing the phase 2 of COVID-19, and we see that tourism stops. Now it's the end of September, and we have to face the near future. That will change, and I believe that 2 or 3 main changes will happen in the near future. First, people are getting using all these electronic means and all this web conference. So there will be a change in the conference sector for sure. Of course, technology is difficult to be adapted, but will accelerate. COVID will accelerate this procedure, and people will be more familiar with the technology. The second is that I think we will go in more slow tourism modes. People will avoid mass tourism, so I think mass tourism will be hidden for many years. not only one or two, but for many years. So people will go to slow and more alternative tourism. And the third, I think there will be a change in the working environment with all this teleworking, that people start working from their homes. That's of course in tourism you cannot do that. You cannot serve people from your home. Just you can take care of bookings and things like that. But tourism has to face the people and to welcome face to face. But I believe this will have a negative impact in the working force of tourism in the tourism industry, and not only in all working forces, I think, because they are getting used to work from their home and not to work so much. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Vicky. Let's give 5 minutes to everybody, and then we'll go back and have a big discussion. And the next three people are my heroes because they're hoteliers, so they were on the first line. And particular, Alexandros is wearing many hats. Not only he owns Airotel hotels, but also he's the president of the Chamber of Hoteliers in Greece, and he's also on the board of HOTREC, the European Hotel Association. So, Alexandros, we've been discussing about COVID. I remember the first time I discussed it with you was on the 17th of February when the Secretary General of WTO came to Greece. And it was a nightmare of a season. But I really respect the work that you have done with the Hoteliers Chamber and with everybody else to actually prepare the hotels and make sure that the tourism industry in Greece was as strong and showing the leadership that you have shown. Would you like to share with us your thoughts about this summer and what you think that went well in Greece?
Well, thank you very much for your kind words, Professor. It's an honor to be here amongst so many distinguished guests from all communities, whether it's hotels or universities from all around the world. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It is obviously a very difficult time to comment on a season. I think it's a season that, first of all, nobody saw coming. And also I would say that it's maybe still too early to draw conclusions. We still have a lot ahead. We still haven't seen how the pandemic will evolve over the next few months. The winter is ahead. So we can underline a few things. Obviously, we have done a lot of work, and I feel very proud of the result. We put a lot of energy in order to create the protocols for the hotels. It's many man-hours, but I think that at the end of the day, the result justified the investment from everybody involved. So it was very important for us to create the facility for hoteliers to enter in a site and have the possibility to know the protocols with which they had to work from day one. Through the uncertainty that existed this year, this was the main purpose of our intervention at the beginning of the season. I'm happy to say that during August we had 4,000 tests made in hotels and found 2 cases. So that shows the level of success we had within the Greek hotels in order to prepare the personnel, the owners, the guests as well, to inform them well in order to have what we see today as a society, the basic rules that we need to apply if we want to be a safe destination, as safe as a destination can be, obviously. Since then, we've worked a lot on data, so we will start releasing now a lot of studies and data that we have gathered through this difficult time. We have a huge participation rate. For those of you who are involved in statistics, Greece has 10,000 hotels. We will be announcing in 10 days exactly the number of hotels that opened, for how long they opened, in which regions, which categories, etc. So as I said, there's a lot of data. We have, on average, we have about 7,000, a bit close to 7,000 hotels did create the protocols, and a bit less than that opened. We have been monitoring more than 600 hotels on average rates and weekly occupancies, and we have studies that exceed 2,500 hotels replying to the questionnaire. So we have huge amounts of data now exploitable in order to help us prevent and prepare the next season as well. A very big issue is the long-term planning. We have all been very keen to discuss about what will the next day look like, what will be the next day, when will be the next day, because that we cannot know either. Obviously, the new normality, we cannot define yet what it will be. I strongly believe, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of things ahead. So we cannot say today how tourism will be in a year. But on the other hand, we need, if there is one thing we can appreciate and say today, and I guess everybody will agree on that, is that we are in a time where changes will happen more often, will happen more abruptly. So none of us can hope to find a harbor in a model, whichever model that is. If it's an existing model or a new model, or if it's a sustainability model, or if it's a mass tourism model, all the models will evolve all the time. This is what we need to make sure. We have to stop looking at evolution as a disruption. It is not a disruption anymore. Evolution is here, and evolution is very faster in every generation. Every generation talks about the generation before and says, or the generation after and says, we didn't have this, or this didn't happen in our generation. And this goes on for generations now. What is different today is the speed of change, and the speed of change is what we need to cope with if we want to be up to date with the evolution that will arrive. So there is a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know what the landscape will be once everything will be over. We don't know what the airlines will look like. We don't know what the tour operators would look like. We don't know what the hoteliers will look like. It is definite that we will see some consolidation. This is safe to say, that we will start seeing consolidation models applying on the market, but it's still too soon to take decisions and to allow ourselves to make predictions. I am still confident. It is obvious we were at the beginning of this crisis. Our predictions were not good. It turned out that they would have been very nice as predictions, unfortunately. So obviously the long-term planning is ahead. There is still a gap until we arrive at the long-term planning. We still have to make sure that everybody goes through the river. It is a very difficult time and a very difficult winter ahead. So we're discussing still today with the government to see what complementary measures we should have. Always while we have an eye on the future. And the general idea, and I'll close my opening remarks with this, is that we won't, I don't think that people will walk backwards in the future. We won't see things that will completely shock us. What we will see is the acceleration of trends that were already here. We will see sustainability come in with such force that we didn't imagine, whether it's from the consumer or the hotels themselves, or everybody involved in the industry. These things we must be prepared to see. I'm very happy as a chamber that we have products running, whether it's sustainability, innovation, startups, collaboration with agriculturers. All these things are on the table and will be accelerated in order to meet as much as possible the day after. So thank you again for having me, and I leave the floor to the other distinguished guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandros. What you said, if we use one word for everything, I'll call it agility. And I think I'm very glad that you are in the leadership of the hotelier chamber, because you are the right person for the right job to bring the whole generation of hotels forward to the new era. And you mentioned sustainability, and I think that gives us a very good link to Fώτης Κοκοτός, because Fώτης, apart from being a hotelier, apart from being in the executive board of SETE, the Association of Greek Tourism Enterprises, and the Margari Greece, so he wears several hats. He is probably the most sustainable hotelier I know. And I hope that he doesn't mind if I share the joke that some of the new employees think that he's a gardener because he's always doing things in the garden or dealing with rubbish or actually being a hands-on sustainable environmental engineering. Fώτης, would you like to share
for the introduction?
Your thoughts? And also, the other thing I'd like you to share, please, is your success for the season. You were the only hotel that came up and they said, look, given the circumstances, we've done extremely well. And I'm very proud of you and your family for doing that.
Right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, or good morning in Canada. So, very kind words, and I think that's something that also Alexandros mentioned, sustainability. This is something I've been involved with a lot. And so this year, I wrote an article for Katerina just before we opened up for tourism, saying that it's clear that mass tourism is going to be adversely affected by all this, but products like villas and boutique hotels and yachting and all those things that cater to much more tailor-made and personal and private kind of holiday will flourish. And indeed, our product, the Elounda Peninsula, which is an all-suites hotel, did better in August than it did last year in August. So we had more income and higher ADRs and higher occupancies in August than we did in 2019. And that's for this particular product. We have 3 hotels. They are all positioned in the luxury sector, but this one is the most expensive one, and this one did best. However, it is not the kind of model where sustainability is easily applied to. You need to, as you said, you need to get involved yourself as the owner. You need to go after the staff to make sure that they enforce the protocols. It's easier with mass tourism because you have mass transport, you have cohesion and products that are produced at a large scale, so you have economies of scale. Whereas in more privatized and more individualistic kind of holidays where you take a private vehicle, you take a car and you enjoy an experience rather than take a bus along with 50 other people, it's less so. So I wrote that we will start to have to look at how we can make that kind of holiday even more sustainable. And that involves things like turning that car into an electric car. How can we massively change the rental vehicle fleet in Greece and the whole country to be an electric fleet, for example, massively electricize the transport industry. These things will apply to yachts, will apply to pretty much everything. And this is something that humanity will have to face in the long-term future. COVID and pandemics and things like that, you can see how people are very keen to go back to normality by just applying some very basic measures like, wearing a mask and washing your hands and keeping a safe distance and that sort of thing. Because it was like that 15 years ago. We got used to having a security check at the entrance of every hotel. You had your bag opened, you had your body searched, you had metal detectors and that sort of thing. We traveled in the Middle East. We saw that it became the new normal. And people still enjoyed holidays and went out and played golf. And, an outdoor activity like that is still not going to be adversely affected by the pandemic. Other things are, like clubbing, for example. But people are very keen to go back to normal, and I saw that in the 3 last months where our hotel had people who all they needed and all they looked for was normality. And they were often taken aback by the fact that I did not offer my hand in a handshake. I never did, I still don't, and I can see that in people's eyes. They expect a handshake and they don't get one, and they kind of feel awkward about that. That's the new normal that they'll have to get used to. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you, Fotis. And I think when we come back, we'll ask you, how did you do it, Vicky?
Okay.
And if you can share some of your secrets, okay?
Yeah, okay.
And Katerina and I were going back for a long time. She is managing 5 properties, the Anna hotels in 4 properties. And she's at the sharp end, where it's not the kind of customers who are going to Fortis Hotel. There are more 3- and 4-star hotels, and it's a more kind of inclusive, if you like, approach to tourism. And I know that you've done well this summer, Katerina, but would you like to tell us what you see the situation in Zante and how you have taken care of your guests and your staff?
Actually, there is still big uncertainty for the future. This COVID crisis is still evolving, so I cannot predict anything, but all I can say, and actually the approach I wanted to take to this discussion was the approach of change. How businesses adapt to changes, whether it's COVID, whether it's September 11, whether it's any kind of change, either positive or negative. So what we tried to do in our organization, as we do with every situation that you can call a crisis or a change, was to be open to changes and adapt them bottom up. If you don't adapt on a bottom up level to changes, you don't have all the shareholders agreeing on a common target, then your organization cannot go forward. So the first thing that we did on February, when you were shouting brace to the people, and you did that without expecting something back, and this is what you always do, Dimitris. You said that you stole from Hong Kong the protocols. Actually, I would say you did the usual benchmarking. You shared it with the world, so we were among the people who heard you, and we started implementing the protocols from our homes during the quarantine. And then we realized that something major is happening. And we all agreed, bottom up, this is very important, that we need to keep the same target so we can give one message to our employees, our staff. Then we started talking with our guests. In my business, we started preparing for any change that comes to this fast-growing industry that we called tourism since 2002, 2003. We saw this amazing tool penetrating our market, which is called technology. And we decided that we said technology is not a tool to push our products. It's a tool to pull our clients, to engage with our guests, to stop actually doing marketing. And I might sound very weird, but I think that this long-term plan that we implement in our group found us prepared in 2020 during a major crisis. If I can give you an example, I would say that because of the way we approach technology, call it TripAdvisor, social media, Twitter, Instagram right now, it will be TikTok in the future, only God knows. The way we did this kind of approach since 2002 gave us a 40% repeat clientele to our group. This is very major for us. This creates evangelists for our group. It creates a team that is ready to speak for you. So since we know that the only constant is change in our world, it's COVID this year, it can be something else in the next 5 years. I think the only tool that we find us ready for the future is our guests, our employees, and whatever we do offline, because I think we have a decent business offline. If you take this online and you take advantage of all the tools that are available free of charge, mostly, this amplifies to a great extent. So this, I believe this is the only shield we had for our organization to go well in this season, despite the crisis. We had good occupancies in our hotels. We had very, very good feedback from our guests. There was very big solidarity, ethos and cooperation from our guests and our staff and the shareholders of the company. We were just expecting a little bit more cooperation from the stakeholders, which involves everyone, so we could run a little bit more the season, because unfortunately, Zakynthos, you all know that the season was cut short because of the parties in Laganas resort. So we needed to stop for now, but so far I'm very satisfied with how the season went, despite the situation. So this is for me. I will leave you with one word: change. Adaptation to change, bottom line. This is it for me.
Thank you, Katerina. You make me proud. You know that. It's unbelievable. And actually, Greece it normally is not on the good news around the world, but this summer I think Greece has been on the good news. And I think it's good for the country, it's good for the people, it's good for the brand, it's good for tourism in general. And I think we actually, I've been around in England a lot, and when you're seeing how we are not keeping the protocols in England, we are not, the hoteliers were not ready for a lot of those things. A lot of the restaurant chains were not ready for these things. And for the first time, they were coming to us, in first to see expertise. So I think from the beginning what happened is that we borrowed the protocols and all the expertise from Asia, because in Asia they've all experienced those things before. And I remember, starting from Hong Kong and Taiwan and looking into all of those things, and gradually we took them through. I'd like to ask Vicky to come into her normal role as a journalist, which normally we do these panels together and we're asking questions together, and I wish she can help me. But before we go into questions, I think when you look into Alexandros, he talked more about the industry coming together and the protocols. I think Fώτης brought more the sustainability angle, and I think Katerina brought the technology angle, and all of those things are deep for me, and change and how we're going to go forward. I think one of the challenges, how do we, you're all young, you're all very educated, you're all very aware of the big things. How do you think we're going to bring the average hotelier, Alexandre, that they're part of your chamber and they may not have the ability to follow these trends? And how can we bring all this best practice and get them to follow the best practice that we experience?
Well, I think that, like I said before, we need to highlight the best practices, and we need to bear in mind, first of all, the landscape. When we talk about Greek hotels, and this was supposed to be one of our weaknesses, but it's turning into a strength. The average Greek hotel is 42 rooms. So we're not a country of huge resorts as many competitors of us are. We have a very much smaller family-owned businesses. This creates a problem in terms of how to educate. It's much more difficult to educate much smaller hotels, which will not have economies of scale like big resorts like Fώτης will have, obviously. So it's a bit more difficult to infiltrate. But once you do, and we have created the tool for this. We have created it's a first. It's a horizontal representation of hotels. It's called Hotels 4, and it is based on the 17 pillars of the UN, and it will be the corporate social tool of Greek hotels, and it will create the possibility for all hotels, whatever their size is, to enter the best practices and to follow the best practices. So the program will be announced within the next few weeks. It's a huge challenge for us, but it is the only way forward if we want to be here and if we want to keep leading the next day. Because I will emphasize on what you said. Greece does make the news, but usually for the wrong reasons. And this year we have to be proud that we were on the first pages for the good reasons. Obviously, we need to maintain this. We say this everywhere and every day. Nothing is finished. We need to keep protecting the society. But we need to acknowledge that we have a momentum. So we need to take advantage of this momentum, whether it's sustainability, whether it's technology. We have been running an accelerator in Greece for 2 years. Again, this is not something people are used to see technology in Greece evolve and create incubators and accelerators for startups. It is something that I've been getting immense positive feedback from our colleagues in Europe. There are now European startups that are asking to come to Greece to be accelerated. If I told this 2 years ago, it would have been a joke, but today it is a reality. Of course, because of COVID, we do not have physical representation of the startups, the European startups in Greece yet, but this is something that we hope we will be able to do in 2021 in parallel of taking the Greek startups abroad. And this we have already agreed with our sponsors like Google to take them to the boot camps and to introduce them to the international market. So these are for Greece, these are shocking changes. Like I said, 2 years ago, nobody would have believed that things like this can happen in Greece. And nobody would have believed either that exiting 10 years of crisis, Greece would succeed during this summer to tackle the COVID situation. But we did. So the first thing we need to do is to protect what we have achieved, and we need to move forward. And we have proven that we can move forward, and this is the most important thing.
You're absolutely right. And I think one of the things that COVID will leave behind is the level of digitization that happened. So it's digitization steroids. It has kind of, in 5 months, we got digitization that we haven't seen for the last 10 years. And I think as far as sustainability, actually it's going to take us back, because there's a lot of one-use material, a lot of plastics that we're using, and I'm not sure how we can deal with that. Fώτης, you probably have a much better understanding of those things. But a lot of the masks, a lot of the gloves that we wear, a lot of the hotels, they provided breakfast and food in takeaway baskets or things that they are only used once. For this, how do you see sustainability coming forward? And there's this discussion about mass tourism and exclusive tourism. And quite often I'm using your hotel. I said, not the whole Greece cannot become Elounda. So we need to look into how can we do sustainability within our structures and within the infrastructure we created already. I think you're muted for this. Can you hear you? Yes, we can. No, we cannot. Keep speaking so we see what comes out.
Everything is okay?
Otherwise, I'll go to Vicky for a second. and ask her about the biking, because a lot of these things, a lot of the sustainability issues will have to do with the adoption of bike.
Tell me if this is working, because I see my microphone as working.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it now? Is it okay? Okay, sorry now. Dimitri, so you were saying sustainability. I'll go. We've lost some time now. This year saw a global economic downturn. So as far as the production of waste, that solid, whether that be solid air or whatever, it has been reduced. That, of course, we're not good. This is not going to be the new normal. The world economy is going to grow again, and then we're going to have to tackle the same issues just where we left them. Now, the waste produced by the single-use gloves, masks, what have you, is tremendous, and it is worldwide. And that is an issue well beyond Greek tourism. We can't address it. Now, of course, it would be really nice if we could recycle plastics in Greece. There is a very limited amount of plastic recycling that we can do, and I will leave it at that. We'll need to have a completely different panel to go into the details of PET, polyethylene, polypropylene, and what we can do and what we can't do. Now, going back to success, and Elounda Peninsula is one of 3 hotels, like I said. One hotel stayed closed because we could not find enough people to fill at those rates, ranging between 150 and 250 euro per night. But we could have enough people to fill a hotel with 1,500 euro per night average rate. Now, this is something that, of course, cannot be done throughout the country. We've been talking about this for quite a while, how we can attract this kind of clientele to the country. And this is, to one extent, is a hotelier's job. So the hotelier creates the experience of the accommodation and the experiences within the walls, and those are private experiences and all that. But the rest of the country has to keep up. And this is an issue that also is true for us in Elounda. You go outside the hotel and the road and the cleanliness or lack thereof, the public transportation, the infrastructure along the sidewalks, the lighting, what have you. Now, all those things are something that affect Zakynthos, affect Athens, everywhere. Greece has fallen behind the last 10 years because of its own financial crisis, whereas the world was growing at a very fast pace and the industry was growing everywhere. We fell behind, even further behind rather, in public infrastructure. And so this is still going to be a priority in the next few years. We need public infrastructure if Greece is going to be overall competitive, not only in the top luxury segment. This has to do with everybody, even people buying average products or cheap products, so to speak, mass products. They expect the country to be clean. This is something that is self-understood. And it's understood by the consumer, of course, but it's not necessarily understood by the producer and the locals here. This is something that I've been struggling for, decades now. Since I've been an environmental engineer for 20 years, I've been trying to create an environmental conscience in the local population and as far as I can do for the whole of Greece. And this is something that is not only recycling, and it's not only aesthetics, whether what you see is nice or beautiful or clean. It has to do with an attitude, and we have to change attitudes, and that's something that the world has to address, COVID or no COVID.
And with your SETE hat on, I think one of the things we achieved this year was kind of a big conversation with all the stakeholders and get all the industry to work together towards addressing the challenges. And one of the big challenges that we're going to have is look after the employees of the tourism industry. Would you like to explore a little bit how you're doing it at SETE and what is the discussion that you have got with the various other sectors, not only the hospitality, but also travel agents, tour operators, transportation, and all the other players in the industry?
So clearly, as you know, a lot of people were jobless this year. And when I was asked so in June, we had contacted 122 of our staff on the day that I was asked. 100 had been hired. They had agreed to be hired. And the rest said that they'd rather take the monthly stipend, which in Greece is 534 euro, and have a summer holiday for a change, which they hadn't had done in quite a while. And that is a perfectly understandable, frame of mind. We had to, these are people we've been working with for a while. So that's what we did. We allowed them to have a summer holiday for 534, and then obviously they'd be making some money on the side, but that's something that we can't know. We were too busy with our own issues. So do you remember that? Now, the people who are in the tourism industry, I think, have been well protected by the Greek state. I don't think we can complain about the protection afforded, and that protection, which is a stipend, but it's also the fact that their social security contributions have been covered by the state as well, so that they're fully secured for the winter coming, that they will get a jobless stipend throughout the winter. These are enough, in my opinion. Given the kind of feedback that I have gotten from this, it was an agonizing procedure, I must tell you, because you had to make personal conversations with every single staff and convince them to come to work, because they had the opportunity to just sit back and receive a hefty amount of money for just sitting back. Now, if you think about it, 534 in a country that gives a salary for that much money to a person working a 5-day week, well, it's a lot of money. So SETE has also renewed the 2019 terms for 2020, and the 2019 terms of the employment terms, were based on the assumption that we're going to have another record year, and we were coming off of 3 record years in a row. So the terms that we agreed on in 2019 have been extremely favorable for the workforce, in my opinion, and we renewed those terms in 2020. So, in my opinion, I don't see any reason to begin a new negotiation with hoteliers in the midst of a pandemic. Somebody came to me in July when we had the Minister of Tourism locally in Agios Nikolaos in the town, and they said to me, let's discuss about the new contract for 2021. I said to her, if I am going to in any way represent the average hotelier, what do you think the average hotelier who didn't open their hotel for 2020 going to demand of a new contract? Are they going to go with 2019 terms, or are they going to go, we are in a pandemic, my business has not been making any revenue, I cannot afford the same salaries, we're going to have to cut them by 50%. That's the position of the hotelier who has had no income, and this is the kind of position that anybody representing the whole body of hoteliers would have to take. And clearly, I'm not prepared to take such a position. I would not like to enter a negotiation whereby I'm going to demand a 50% reduction in wages. That's ridiculous. We're not going to have this conversation ever. The people are not going to go into the room. So, if your question is about, employee relationships going forward, I would say, let's not touch that. Okay, stay away from it. Keep it as it is. I think we have a win-win situation right now where people are covered by the state, and that the businesses have their own issues to struggle with, lack of revenue being the main one. Okay, so that's it from me.
Thank you. I think solidarity and αλληλεγγύη in Greek, solidarity and bring all the different partners together. And I gave an interview recently in one of the media here, and I said it's a storm, and the storm is going to go away. The question is how many people can we keep under the umbrella, and how many people can we keep dry until the storm goes? And I think I was just looking at Katerina's Facebook today, and her staff was all in Navagio beach in Zante, and they were having fun, and it's really about how can we protect our staff and how we can engage with different people in different situations. Katerina, how do you deal with your staff? Because most of your staff is local, right? In Zante, you don't have a lot of people coming from different places.
We have most of our staff is local and from all over Greece, I would say. And the vast majority of our staff work in our hotels for many, many years. They have adjusted to the philosophy of our business. Also, we lead by example, the owners, my family, because we are a family-run hotel. We lead our staff by example, and we want our guests to see this. And we are considered as a big family, and this is what makes our guests get emotional with our business. And this is really huge. I really cannot explain in words. You really have to see that. It gives me the goosebumps. I wish all businesses would have this kind of approach, no matter how many stars, how many star rating they represent, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. We need to understand that we need to market our product like the Flintstones did back in the old ages, but with the new tools we have now. And if we succeed on doing that, it gets amplified, as I said before, online, and it's really very big for a small, medium organization to have this kind of opportunities. And we have them all in front of us, and we don't take advantage because we are afraid of the new. We are afraid of, we have uncertainty that there is no knowledge. We can always outsource. The knowledge is there. Your bibliography, Dimitrios, is there. People can read, so they can go online. You have it available, again, free of charge. So it's a matter of putting our egos down and start to learn. We need to have patience as business owners. And the biggest mistake we do is whatever action we take in our businesses, the next day we want to monetize. But this is not the case. It needs hustle, it needs work. I've worked a lot in the front line until I become the managing director of my company. I've worked a lot. I have replied to thousands of emails, thousands of reviews, thousands of non-threatening conversations with my guests discussing how nice is the weather today. And these things don't monetize the next day. You need to wait for years. And actually miracles happen. I'm very happy with what we do, and I would share everything with the others, everything.
And I think that goes back to what Alexandros was saying early on. What we thought that was a disadvantage of the small size and the family size actually becomes an advantage, because a lot of the people were coming back to Greece this year, and they were saying, I'm really, really sorry I cannot come this year, but I promise I'll come as soon as I can. The minute that the flights are open, we're going to go back. I'd like to go back to Vicky, because Vicky was the first journalist who actually interviewed me on the 16th of February, and the first interview we got on Travel Day News was on that night, on the 17th of February. It's on their YouTube channel when we start talking about COVID and how difficult it is. And I think since then, Vicky, you've done a great job in informing the industry and bringing a lot of different things. But I like to bring you back on the sustainability thing and the biking hotels, or whatever you call this. And I know that you're in Leros, bringing the local mayor and the local hotels to be part of the biking hotels. And that, the government here says to us, do not go on the tube, on the metro, do not go on the train, go by bike or go by foot to your work. And the university has just announced that they're going to give another incentive, that they're gonna buy bikes for us to be able to go to work when we go to work. So how is this initiative going, Vicky, and how do you think it is going to support sustainability?
Well, definitely, biking is very COVID-friendly, if we can say that. So it's the time for Greeks to adopt this mean of transportation and use their bike. Our tourists, of course, they are using bikes in their countries, and this was the idea when I started speaking about biking in Greece. That was the idea that our tourists use the bike, so why not to give them the opportunity to bike in Greece. In Greece, we have the motorbikes, lots of motorbikes that they are doing lots of noise. So biking with a bicycle is a very sustainable. So it's the time, is the perfect time, I think. And I need to say that both hoteliers and the state is close to that idea, and they support a lot this idea. They support us a lot. We operate under the auspices of the Greek tourism ministry. Any actions that we are taking as a company is under the auspices of the ministry, and we saw that lots of municipalities now they want to be under the umbrella of biking-friendly destination. So I am on Leros, on a very small, very remote and small island of Greece, very close to the Turkish borders, and will be the first. It is now the first island that is bike-friendly. So I believe that's the future. The sustainable tourism has many faces. One is this with biking, and I believe this is the future.
Okay, I can see Nikki getting really nervous because of timing, and I'm heading for 5:30. So if I ask Katerina, Fotis, and Alexandros for 1 minute to tell us what do they wish for the world to learn out of the best example of Greece for this year. What can we export? What best practice can we export? Katerina?
What I wish for the world? Health, first of all. What I would wish for the people, of course, to be healthy, but rather than that, since we are talking about businesses, I would wish for every business that struggle right now to work and predict what will happen in the future and next year. I would advise them to first sit back and relax and count their cost and reevaluate their relationship with their staff, put their egos down and start engaging with their clientele. Some of them would say we want fast results because we're businesses and we need money because this is what they need. But one thing I would say is that only the businesses with structure and with tourism mentality from bottom up will be able to survive in the future. And I'm very sad about that because there is still a chance for small businesses to come together and create clusters. They can increase their bargaining power by becoming together and create a product like the one we see in Spain and that you were talking about the other day in another panel. So I believe the opportunities are there. I just wish that people will find the courage to keep going with their businesses and reevaluate their product and their way of thinking. This is very important to learn how the environment changes tourism.
Fotis?
Okay, so building on what I just heard, because we're a family business too, I completely agree. And I would add that we are happy the way that the state has treated the industry. And I think that it was well protected, the businesses and the employees alike. And that is something we can also export. I mean, we had a success in dealing with the health issues, but I think at the end of the day, we're also going to have a success in dealing with businesses and people in tourism and how the industry was protected enough so as to be there next year or whenever we get back to normality.
Thank you. Alexandros?
Well, there's still a lot to do. I don't think that we're at the end of it yet, whether it's financially or first of all health-wise. So I think we still have a lot ahead. So we must not get ahead of ourselves. So there's still a lot of work to do. If we're in a position to export anything I would say that we need to export positiveness and reactiveness, which is what we showed throughout this crisis. Now, it's always very hard. I've been in a constant discussion with my homologues all over Europe through the HOTREC Executive Committee. It's disturbing to see what this crisis has done to tourism in Europe and worldwide. So I'm sure that it will take a long time to get back on our feet, but we are positive, and this is what we need to export. We have showed that a small country like ours is within reach of positive outcomes and solutions. So I think this is the most positive message we can use as a momentum for the future.
Thank you, Alexandros. Vicky, last word from you. What would you, when you share this panel on your Travel Daily News, what would be the headline? What's the key message that comes out? Unmute yourself.
Yes, we will survive. Tourism will survive.
Survive, and we will flourish again. It's a storm, and the rainbow is gonna come out. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate talking to you. I think all the positive energy is going to be shared with colleagues all over the world, and we wish everybody to have healthy life and to find their values again and come back into the new realities of tourism and share these values with everybody in society. Thank you to all. Thank you, Vicky, and over to you.
Before this a very nice panel leaves, we would like to express our thankfulness because Professor Buhalis knows it from our previous conferences. We really appreciate the work that has been done from people like you. No steps backwards, only steps forward. We are waiting from you. We are academics, you are the industry. We need you to cooperate and see what are the steps that you are doing forward. So please allow me, as the chair of ICSIMAT 2020, to show you our appreciation with a little gift that we are going to show you in camera for each one of you. Okay, now it will be on. For Miss Karantzavelou, Vicky.
The digital gift, or it's something that is
You know, Professor, even if it is digital, then it comes to the university or to their business. We also have we shown it. We show it for Mrs. Vicky Karantzavelou. And then we go to Mr. Vassilikos, Alexandros Vassilikos.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. And Mr. Kokotos, thank you very much. And now Mrs. Margari, that we have already discussed how things will be done for next year's conference. Hopefully that we will have it in Zakynthos, because we were about to have it this year in Zakynthos. And this is a perfect now moment to, apart from her recognition, her recognition for this conference, to make to allow us to hear an ensemble of Mandolinata from Zakynthos. Please stay and watch it with us. It will be a video that a friend of ICSIMAT, a member of ICSIMAT, because we are a community in this conference, Mrs. Agaliotou Hara, has created this Mandolinata ensemble with her friends. It is the oldest one since 1958, and they prepared a wonderful present for ICSIMAT that everybody will enjoy to hear this video. Thank you very much, Hara, and all the members of Mandolinat that created this video. And I will share it with you.
Dear friends and conference attendees, we would like to present you Zakynthos 1958 Mandolin Ensemble, who are going to contribute to the ICSIMAT 2020 by playing songs written by local poets and composers. We are a musical structure first established by the conductor and our teacher, Anastasios Leftakis, in 1958. That was a very difficult time for Zakynthos, just after the 1953 earthquake and fire that destroyed the island completely. It was essential for that local culture and tradition to be kept alive. We are the young students of that period who have got old, but still playing our mandolins, trying to keep the local tradition. As you all know, music must be played, music must be heard, because music brings us together no matter how far apart we are. We will be performing here at Stranis Hill, just above Zakynthos town, a historical location, the place where our national poet Dionysios Solomos wrote the national anthem of Greece, the hymn to freedom. With the hope and wish to see you next year in a great live concert here in our beautiful island, we leave you to enjoy a small part of our local music tradition, directed by our music teacher and conductor, Mr. Babis Platipodis. Stay safe.